So to get things straight here, men and women today reject the book for no reason. They call it fantasy, make-believe, and made up. They don't seem to understand that the book is filled with random stories that have been verified. That there has been artifacts found that verify the stories. How everything has been actually verified. All that aside, I'd like to talk today about the book and how people sit there and don't believe in it. Which is fine, I guess. If you are stupid and ignorant, then you go ahead and don't believe in the book. That's your problem. But I'd like to say a couple things about the book that you all might find fascinating. Today, men complain about women. How women are acting like men and no longer acting like feminine women, right? Almost every woman in the Bible, almost every woman, actually I think every woman, even the evil ones because they were feminine and evil, all the women in the Bible are extremely feminine, who sacrifice their lives for their husbands, who love their husbands more than anything in the world. So if you're calling that book a fantasy, then what you're basically saying is that real love does not exist. Now I hear people today bashing traditionalism. I hear people going out there saying marriage is bad. And I have to disagree with that. I say marriage is just fine. It is the legal system that is screwed up. And not only is the legal system screwed up, but men have allowed it to become screwed up. Men have allowed the destruction of marriage. Men are responsible for it. We knew what women were up to. We knew that they were trying to alter and jack the marriage system. And they have. But men sat there and did nothing about it. Normally, every year, you have your birthday. On your birthday, you have a cake and presents. But what if that one day, the legal system was changed, and now you are no longer receiving birthday presents on your birthday, but you're receiving a beating on your birthday? How often would you like your birthday to come around then? You'd be pretty grateful that's only one day a year, right? That's the same thing with marriage. Marriage used to be really great until the women got their filthy little paws on it, hooves, and started to alter the laws. They changed it to make it now that it's actually deadly for men to become a husband, to be married. But backtracking to the Bible times, and you will clearly see a pattern of all the females loving their husbands, dying for their husbands, giving birth to a child they know they cannot bear, just to make sure that their husband has a baby to carry on his legacy. You don't see that today anymore, do you? So if the Bible is fantasy and what we live in today is reality, I'd say I'd rather live in the biblical times. Because women were women and men were men. Men were sheep herders, men were carpenters, men, took care of the towns, men were the guards, men were the soldiers, men were the kings. But the females were extremely, extremely feminine. So feminine that it almost like a pink cloud would just pass by you when they passed by you. Wearing gold, having their hair done, not even wearing makeup, just natural beauty. Women back then were truly women. So what we have today in 2014 is a completely fucked up system, completely man-hating woman, and there's a book out there that says how you're supposed to do it, and if you follow the rules of how these people did it, we could live it too. But in chaos, in hell, people are denying the book. That is how stupid the world has become. This world has become a literal hell for men who want to get married, for men who want to become fathers. And by the way, folks, marriage was given to you by God. Not by the legal system, not by human beings. It was given to you by God. The rights to have a divorce were once again given to you by God, not by human beings. They were given to you by God, by Moses, who said it was okay to divorce, but only if a man did it. A few deeds that the females did in the Bible. Sarah, Abraham's wife, could not get pregnant. She was barren. So she asked a slave girl to have sex with her husband so that her husband could still have a child. Show me one woman today on this planet right now who would make that sacrifice for her man. None of them would. Not one woman. Esther, a beautiful Jew woman, had to hide for her life when her father figured out that the Roman guards were coming into Israel to take all the women out of the city to bring them to the king so the king can have his pick of his wife. But the story was that this king killed his previous wife. So any woman that would get picked right now could have a good chance of being murdered. So as a father, you want to protect your daughter. And this is what he did. He protected his daughter, but sadly the guards were smart enough to see through his plan and they found his daughter. She turned out to be the one that the king wanted. So the king had her. But even in that time, the Jews weren't very popular. So one of the king's councilmen wanted to get rid of all the Jews in the city. And he said, he made a decree stating that all Jews will be killed on a certain date. Well, what the king did not know is that his wife was a Jew. She was a hidden Jew. She didn't mention where she was from. But when she found out about this decree made to kill all of her people, she convinced the king, because now the king was her husband, not to kill all of his people. Sadly, the decree still went through and the Jews had to defend themselves, but the Jews were victorious that day. Then there's Mother Mary, a woman who gave birth to a virgin mother with a child, who was not only a virgin, but had to get married just to spare her own life, because back in those days, a woman having a single mother out there would literally be stoned to death. You would be massacred for being a single mother. You were seen as a harlot, as a slut, as a whore. So Joseph married Mary to protect her. And in return, he got many children from her. But also, when Mary had to watch her own son die on the cross, sitting at his feet, you got to look and see what kind of a powerful woman that was. Women back then were honorable, respectable, and you could actually madly fall in love with them as a man and know that you would get that same love in return. You could drop your guard with these women. You could depend on these women. You could rely on these women. Every man today deserves his own Sarah. Absolutely. They deserve their own Esther. Absolutely. But it's females that hate the Bible. It's females who've actually told you that it's bad. It's the females that keep you away from it. Because in that book, it tells you what you are lacking in modern day women. Women back then were as powerful as men. Women back then had more strength and spirit than men did. Just not physical strength. Females back then really meant something. And in modern day 2014, the females today do not want you to see what they were back then. You know, if you actually looked at the Bible from 4,000 years ago to 2,000 years ago to today, you will see a gradual de-evolution of females out there. You will see how it went from 6,000 years ago to a woman eating the apple down to 2014 where women are now having sex promiscuously and acting like untitled whores. You can see the gradual declining of female evolution as we went through the times. While men got smarter, females became more pussies, more weak, and more simpletons. There used to be a time where, Queen Jezebel, and shit like that ruled the planet. She put fear into men all over the place. Because she had an army, man, that can kill any man. But she too was taken down by a man. Then there's the Queen of Sheba, who was with King Solomon. He had a beautiful romance with her, but she could not stay with him because she owned her own kingdom many, many, many hundreds of miles away. So when the day did come where Solomon had to say goodbye to her, and it ripped his heart out. It tore him to shreds. But that was his own choice because he knew that she had to go back one day. But he refused to listen to her because he was too madly in love with her. The women back then were really women, and women today will keep you away from the Bible because they do not want you to see what a real woman is like, because all they want to do today is play on the cell phones, on the tablets, talk about their periods, and act like they are supreme beings when they really are just supreme losers.